Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This is my second time getting to share with the Code City family. And so I met Nate here at Rust Belt, I don't know, about a year ago or so, maybe a little more. And we just hit a quick friendship, and it's really cool. So I've been gone for 2 months, traveling around the West Coast, living out of my car. And so it's awesome to be back home and to see how much this community's grown. And so, yeah, I just kind of wanted to say that to get started, that I'm just really excited to be here and to see what's happening. And so, yeah, I'm talking about the 3 R's of leadership. Basically, what that means is it's a framework for leadership. Early on in my life, for some reason, people were like, you have a natural gift for leadership. I didn't know what that meant, but I remember in 7th grade getting an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. with 60 other future leaders of the country for a week and get to learn about where our nation came from and all that fun stuff. And that was kind of this first moment of getting to do something where this natural leadership comes from. And come to college, start learning about leadership, and people start following me, and so I started getting my hands on every leadership book there is, and I'm learning about vision and motivating and coaching and all of these things and how to formulate a strategy, how to align people. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I have all these things that leaders are supposed to do, but I don't have a framework in which to put those into to be successful. And so maybe some of you are like me, and you're stepping into new leadership, and you have a vision and a dream, and you want other people to see that, and you want to succeed in something. And that's why I really like this community. One of the big dreams and visions, we want the Hyperloop to come through here. I have a dream of getting to work with Hyperloop teams who are designing the future of America here in Toledo. And this is the community that can do that. But if we don't have a framework to lead from, we're going to flounder as other people follow us, and they'll go follow somebody else if we don't know what we're doing. And so I don't have much time. And this is, I would normally, when I'm going through this with some of my college students, and I'm teaching this, it's 2.5 hours. I have like 20 minutes. So if you're taking notes, get ready. We're just going to power through this. There's not going to be many stories or like practical like application. I'm just going to give you the framework, and we're going to rock and roll. All right? So the 3 R's are these: relationships, roles, and responsibilities. So as a leader, one, we have relationships. This is the foundation and the most important thing. Leadership is intrinsically relational. Other people are following you as the leader. And so it is intrinsically relational. And so if you're like drawing a diagram for this framework, you can draw a circle and put relationships. And around the circle, you can put the 3 relationships that exist for a leader. The first one is worldview. Your relationship to how you see the world around you. The thing that informs your values, what's intrinsically important in the world, how your character is developed. All those things are so important. So for me, I come from a Christian background, so I've built my worldview around that. But it's not just that worldview. If you're Muslim, if you're Buddhist, if you're atheist, whatever your worldview is, you need to be connected to that, because that is going to be the thing that informs your values. And ultimately, that's going to be the foundation in which you lead from. And so if you want to be a good leader, you have to have a strong worldview that guides and directs you. And the second thing, or the second relationship, is your relationship with yourself. I started learning about, I had some students that I was mentoring, and some of them dealt with depression. And one thing that their counselors were talking to them about, and they kind of brought to my attention to kind of mentor them through, was this idea of self-talk. And so I started to realize that most of our lives, we're talking to ourselves. We're communicating some kind of message. And so what's our self-talk? How do we communicate with ourselves? Are we in a healthy place? Because if we're not healthy people, we're only going to be able to lead people as far as we can go. And if you're not healthy, you can't go very far. And so the second most important relationship is ourselves. How are we connecting with ourselves? Do we have high self-esteem? Are we confident? Are we able to step out in faith and lead others well? And that starts with our own relationship with ourselves. And then the last one is the obvious one, relationships with others. Connecting with other people. Are we people of compassion, humility, drive, and passion? So those are the relationships, and so that kind of builds your foundation. Put that on the circle. That's where it all fits. And so all of our leadership starts with those relationships. Now we're going to start putting the framework within our relationships and how that works out. So the next thing is our roles. So if you're drawing your little circle and you're taking notes, within your roles there's 4 of them. So you can kind of draw little crosshairs and kind of put it in there in the circle. And these are our roles. These are the things that we are called to do as leaders to push people to heights that they never thought they could dream of. So the first role of a leader is a direction setter. Direction setter. This is the position of saying we don't know where we're going. What vision are we headed towards? What mission do we want to accomplish? What goals do we want to see come true? I'm going to put that up at the top, and that's our direction. That's where we're going. So the first role of a leader is we have to be a direction setter. So for me, I lead college students, particularly in the Greek system at the University of Toledo. And so I have about 11 students that I mentor. And one thing we talk about is their own personal direction. Are they leading themselves towards that vision that they have set for themselves? That's just one example of a direction setter in a very small organization, yourself. So the next role is a coach. You're going to have people on your team, people that you're leading. And you have to coach them well. You have to come alongside of them and train them and equip them and prepare them for success. You might have people who are naturally good at things. Do you encourage them? Do you help them continue to build that up? You might have people who, that same person is very weak in another area. Are you coming alongside and serving them well so that they can overcome their shortfalls? Are you coaching people well? I think of, so I played football in high school, and so every time we lost, whose fault was it? It's the head coach. As a leader, you need to be a strong coach so that when the highs come, you're ready for those. When the lows come, you're ready to take the punishment of not leading well. We have to be a coach. The next one is a change agent. Next role is a change agent. And so if you've done well at direction setting and you're coaching well, you're going to be able to see some patterns within your team that aren't taking you towards the set direction. And so a change agent is able to see that. You're able to step outside of your organization and objectively see what things need to change within our organization, within our structure, within our relationships, and the way we communicate with each other to get to where we want to go. Every project I've ever started on, we had this idea of like, this is where we're going to go and this is how we're going to get there. And then we're halfway through and we're like, we're not even headed in the right direction. We got 7 other things that we're now doing and we're not doing the one thing that we wanted to do. What do we have to change? What do we have to reset up? What things do we have to change to get to where we want to go? So we need to be a change agent. And the last one is a spokesperson. This is our role in engaging people and other organizations that are outside of our organization. So right now, I work for an organization called Crew, and I work for a church down south of Toledo called One Hope. So right now, I'm a spokesperson for both of them. I'm an ambassador for our mission, our values, and our character. And hopefully, through this, we can build a relationship. Through this opportunity of being a spokesperson and getting to teach you guys, what we're able to do is build partnership, collaboration, and there might be a common vision where we can come together. But it all starts with being a spokesperson. How do we communicate? Who are we in front of those who are outside of our organization? So once again, these are our roles. We're direction setters. We are change agents. We are coaches, and we are spokespersons. Those are our roles. And so you got your circle, you got your relationships, You got your roles, and then underneath each role, we have to play out our responsibilities as a leader. This is like where a lot of the examples come in because it kind of gets confusing, but I'm just going to give it to you for the sake of time. So the first responsibility is formulating strategy. If you're a coach, you have to formulate a strategy on how you're going to coach people. Because I'm going to coach people different than how Nate's going to coach people. We're just different people with different passions, different strengths. And so we're going to coach people in different forms and different ways. And so we have to understand our strategy for coaching people. The next one is casting vision. In the direction setter, we've created where we're going. We have to tell people what it is. We have to have crystal clear pictures of what we are trying to achieve as an organization. When someone hears about the mission of Code City, they should know exactly what Code City is all about. That's casting vision well. The next part is aligning people. So you've went out and you've casted this beautiful picture of the future, and everyone's like, yeah, that sounds awesome. You go for it. You have nothing. You need to align people. You need to bring people into that vision. If you're just casting an amazing picture of the future, but no one wants to follow along in it, are you leading anybody? No. So you need to align people to the vision. Bring them alongside you and help take them to that vision. And then the last responsibility is that of a motivator. Because along the way, you're going to have your team, and they're going to be going hard after the mission and after the vision. And then some things are going to happen, and we're short-sighted, and so we kind of veer off, and we don't even know what we're doing anymore. We're just showing up and going through the motions. As a good leader, you have to come alongside them and remind people of where they're going, re-motivate them, spark that fire again. One of my favorite analogies of this is an idea of a vision bucket. And so we cast that vision, and it fills up the bucket. But the problem is we have a little hole in the bottom of the bucket, and over time, that vision just drips out. And eventually, you're drained, and there's nothing left. And a good leader is able to see that and fill the bucket back up and motivate people to continue going. And so this is just one leadership model. Leadership, everyone's talking about leadership, right? Kind of. Here's the thing. You guys are in the top percentile of people who understand leadership. Just from this talk and coming to this Code City on Mondays, there's so many people who don't have a framework of what it looks like to lead. And so for us as leaders in the city, we have a responsibility of taking frameworks like these and others that you might be following and finding success in, and imparting and developing future leaders as well. Training them to go and set directions, to cast visions, to be spokespersons, to coach their team, to go after the dreams that we're creating. It was interesting. One last story. So I was traveling the country, and so I was in Fort Bragg, California. It's this little kind of tourist town. It's just like this ghost town, really, with a couple consignment shops. And I went to the Starbucks because it's the only Starbucks for miles. This is Northern California. I thought there'd be more people in Northern California, but there's not. It's pretty abandoned, right? And so I'd been sleeping on the side of the road, right on the cliff, overseeing the ocean. And I'm like, it's time for some sweet tea. And so head over to the Starbucks, and I walk in, and there's this guy, and he creeps me out at first. He's like, "Hey, man." And I'm like, "Whoa." And he's like, what's your name? And I'm like, "Chaz." And I'm just engaging with him to like hope he like stops engaging with me, but he doesn't quit. I should have just ignored him, but then we wouldn't have this story. And so we start engaging, and he says he works for a church in the area, and I'm like, oh, I work for a church. And so he like chills out a little bit, and so we just get chatting, and he's like, well, what do you do? And I was sharing some of the things that I do, and he's like, man, you do leadership development? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, dude, we have all these kids, and we don't know what we're doing with them. We have no idea how we're going to lead these kids. And so I'm like, hey, well, I have this like structure that I go through. Do you want to sit down? And so they're in the Starbucks with this random dude named Logan, who I just like popped up with. We went and sat. I didn't even get my drink at Starbucks. I'm just sitting there like mooching their Wi-Fi. And we're just sitting there, and I'm going through this framework that I just went through with you. And he's like, man, there's stuff like this out there? Well, give me like a framework to help lead other people. And I'm like, yeah. Have you heard of a book? Like, there's just like so many things, but people don't know. People don't know. And so for us, as the privileged to understand and learn about leadership, we have a responsibility to take maybe this framework. Maybe this is the first time you've heard of a framework where you're like, man, all these pieces, they can come together and I can understand how to lead people well. Maybe you have one that you're already successful in. This is our responsibility. Leadership is our responsibility, and to develop the future leaders. Because I look at this city and the opportunities that are coming our way, and we're going to need leaders to lead everything that's happening. Because if we don't, it's going to flounder and it's going to fall. And that's just the world in general. And so that's my like passionate cry. That if this framework, if the 3 R's of leadership was something you're like, man, this seems like some good stuff, I want to start implementing it. Implement it, learn it, get it down, know what you're doing. And then don't hold on to it for yourself. Give it to someone else. Transfer it, multiply it. Get it out there for the world, because I believe that leadership will help change the world.